Hey, what's cracking, everybody? Appreciate you tuning back in. I'm going to do this one on the fly. So I haven't dug too deep into some of these articles, but we're going to do a little bit of headline reading, just kind of cover what went on today. And then we're going to get into kind of a bit of exciting news from, we'll just say a little bit of a public beta release. So we'll get into that in a second. But, this one's kind of funny. Doge plus cat minus cat equals Doge. What are you doing to us, David Floyd, with those kind of headlines? We're going to just pass over that one. Coinbase wins a patent for secure Bitcoin payment system. It's pretty interesting. This one's actually really interesting to me because I followed and listened to NVIDIA's earnings report today. So their earnings call is pretty interesting. They smashed earnings, and they reported a substantial decline in GPU sales to crypto miners. So I didn't even read this article. I just know more or less from what I heard on their earnings call today. But this to me is actually a really interesting play. What I did last year was I played NVIDIA during the crypto bull run. And those of you who are familiar with the crypto or the traditional markets and kind of how you can play the traditional markets off of the crypto markets, this was a great play. Same with AMD. I know that, who was it? Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. He was talking about how he was playing some of these alternate, traditional investments to kind of piggyback off of the crypto gains. But, as traders, this is something you kind of want to take a look at. So this is an interesting read. I'm sure I actually haven't read it. So, take that with a grain of salt. Let's see. So California is open to allowing crypto political donations. That's actually a really interesting headline. Just keep in mind, these are all headline reading that I'm doing right now because I didn't have a ton of time to kind of dig into these. But when you kind of start headline reading on these crypto, CoinDesk here or any of these crypto media outlets, it's quite interesting when you see a ton of bullish news, and you can kind of backdate that or back check that with what you're seeing in the markets. And guess what? You see a bunch of great news on certain days, and look what the markets do. Like, everybody is just kind of flying blind and doing whatever the news articles say. But nonetheless, today was a great day in crypto. There may have been another one that I wanted to look at. Where was it? Ethereum Classic getting listed on Coinbase. Oh, this was it. ASX head says that the new DLT system could save billions. This is about the Australian Securities Exchange looking into blockchain technology as a potential replacement for clearing and settlement services. So that's actually quite interesting. I'm really interested, if you can't tell, in the real use cases in the real world. And that doesn't mean necessarily like retail people, you and me, being able to use crypto on a daily basis, aside from, sending and receiving different funds from different cryptocurrencies, right? I'm more interested in the actual big business behind these cryptos and how they can save big companies a ton of money. And then looking into those cryptos and really diving into how those cryptos can offer a return on investment to the investors. And if they can't, that's something that I've covered in previous videos quite a ways back, actually. Maybe I'll do another video on that in the future. But, if these coins, yeah, maybe they're saving the company a ton of money, but if they're not providing true value to us and as an investor, then I might look to play them in the more traditional markets, like I was going over with NVIDIA. Say NVIDIA launches some, that's a bad example, but just say NVIDIA launched some cryptocurrency for, whatever, their hardware stuff. That may be a bad play comparatively to just buying NVIDIA stock. So something like that, right? Like where the Australian Securities Exchange is looking to use blockchain technology as a potential replacement for its clearing and settlements. That means that blockchain is real, right? Like they're actually looking into saving money, lowering overhead and raising their bottom line by using a blockchain technology. And how do we benefit off that as an investor? Doesn't necessarily always mean that buying the crypto is going to be that avenue for returns. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here. And maybe I'll have to do a more in-depth video on that. Okay, we already kind of went over this. Looks like a nice green day. You have Tether at negative 0.01%. Sorry if you're holding Tether, you're down a whole lot of money. Here we are with the Same old chart. Haven't really switched it since a couple days ago when we made that video. One thing I'm still looking for here, we had some nice bullish volume coming up. The volume has completely dried up, which to me signifies, okay, we're probably still headed down. And I can't be certain. Nobody can be certain. We've talked about this in the past. This could be the bottom. We could just be kind of going through those Elliott wave series where this, maybe this was the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. We're going to test this support up or this resistance up here, and then hopefully we bust through it, right? That is a very possible scenario. I don't want to get too much into the TA today, but we definitely had the bullish. This is on the 4-hour chart. We had the bullish divergence a couple times in here, and we'll kind of see what happens. This to me, the volume drying up is somewhat of an indicator that it's still on the table for this 5 to be placed somewhere in this area. I'm not counting that out. So, for whatever. This is what I'm going over next. So I'm actually really, really excited for this. We have the public beta. So this is a public PT feeder beta. And what do we talk about in a lot of videos? We always talk about profit trailer and its buying strategies, like how are we going to ensure that we're buying at the right time? If you're using profit trailer without feeder, you're basically relying on your indicators and your buying strategies, kind of a blanket setting, right? Like your buying strategies are the same for everything, for your DCA, for your pairs. And with feeder, what is really powerful to me is that you can change your market conditions. You can change your coin specific settings based on how that specific coin is performing. So if you have a coin that is jumping up 15% in 5 minutes, which is unlikely, but it's possible, then you may want to say, hey, let's ride that wave. Let's jump in. Or you may want to say, all right, that thing is definitely pumping. It's about to dump. I don't want to buy anymore. And that's what's really cool about feeder is it does all those calculations for you. And it not only does that, but it calculates your trailing buys, your trailing profits, et cetera, et cetera. And then with this new beta release, there is a lot of really cool stuff. And this is public. So you guys can go to the website here, and I guess I'll leave this in the description of the video. I hope this is okay, Metadone, because this to me it looks like a public release. If it's not, then I'm really sorry. But we've been testing this in my Discord group, and we've all just been bouncing ideas off of each other, how this is working, kind of giving Metadone some feedback on how this new beta is really working out. So this is the one you want to snag, the newest one. And I can kind of go over some of the new stuff that he's added to this, some really interesting stuff. So you have a sticky timer. So for market conditions or any specific grouping, a property is added so that the grouping stays valid for a period of time, regardless of the condition changes. So to me and some of our moderators that have been using feeder for a long time and having some really good results with it, is we've noticed that when you're in a certain market condition, these market conditions get updated based on your settings. So every, 4 to 5 minutes. And that can be really detrimental to your buying strategies, because every 4 to 5 minutes, your indicators are changing from, maybe using the 4-hour candles to the 5-minute candles. And if that's changing every 4 to 5 minutes, you may not be actually getting the correct data that you really want. And so with this sticky timer, the really cool thing is when you set this sticky timer, once it goes into this boring market condition, it's going to stay there for 250 minutes. And this is something that has been, I assume, which is why he put this in there, especially first, is I assume this was highly requested. And I'm really happy to see this, because now when something enters a bear market, it's going to stay in the bear market for as long as you want it to. And vice versa. So if it goes into a bull market, you can put the sticky timer in there and say, hey, I want it to stay in that bull market condition for 30 minutes and kind of ride out that trend and see if we can capitalize on any of the buying opportunities with my bull market settings. So that's something that I'm pretty excited for. There's a lot of other stuff in here. dynamic trend windows, this is pretty interesting. So it says it's now possible to add as many time trends as you want. In the PT feeder section of your app settings, you need to replace all the minutes to measure trend with this measure trend or measure times. So now you can add a whole host of different measuring time frames that you want PT feeder to run the calculations on, right? And so in custom conditions, you can use, this, like the following example is pair percentage change, which would use the third one in this array here, is greater than the config price change for 12 hours. So this is really interesting to me because now you can use a whole host of different time frames to run your different groupings. So he gives an example here. Properties can be added to enable, to disable, I think, and disable or disable a grouping for certain pairs by default. All pairs are included. So the wiki example grouping is basically saying the market base coin price change minus pair percentage change is less than or equal to the config trigger name. I guess this is actually a completely, I just talked about this as if it was the same as the dynamic trend windows. So I apologize for that, but this is the actual example I should have been talking about. But we can go down to this grouping improvements. Properties can be added or enabled, or added to enable or disable grouping for certain pairs. By default, all pairs are included. So this is actually, you can enable or disable certain groupings, which is actually really interesting to me because enabling and disabling certain coins is actually really powerful. So if you do back testing on certain coins in TradingView, you can see the more volatile coins, right? Like if you look at XRP versus, I don't know, Ethereum, you'll see that XRP consolidates for a very, very long time and then just has these enormous price increases, enormous. And that is something that maybe you want to, or maybe you don't want to include in a certain grouping. And so that actually can be really powerful. And it's kind of funny that he said disabled markets here, XRP, because I would probably do the same thing. So, I didn't actually even see this before I started talking about XRP. So maybe I'm onto something. The creator is looking at the same thing I am. But so that's really cool. That's actually really interesting. You can ignore offsets now. So if certain, your price trend change grouping, you can ignore certain offsets. That's pretty cool. Default market condition. I was actually excited to see this as well. So you can have a default market condition, max top coin average change 2.5. This is what your settings will default to. And guys, like I get that this is probably a lot to take in, and I totally get it because this is a lot to take in for me using this beta even, and I feel like I'm pretty well versed in PT feeder, but this is definitely a lot to take in. So what I want you guys to do, if you own PT feeder and you're still using it and you want to understand more, especially about this beta that's actually going to be pretty game changing, join our Discord group, and we're bouncing ideas about this beta off of each other. And if you notice anything, you want something changed, we can reach out to Metadone. He's a super cool guy, and he's just a workhorse, man. Like, look at what he's implementing here for all of us. So I'm actually really excited to see this. New indicators. This is something really cool. Following indicators have been added to the market for use in custom conditions. This is crazy. Base coin short EMA, long EMA. You have your base coin highest and lowest. All sorts of just crazy new indicators that we can use. And I'm going to be honest with everybody, I have not had a ton of time to look at a lot of this. So we're still digging into it. Some of our moderators have looked into this quite a bit more than I have. But, you can read through all of this. I'll leave this all on the link in the description. And custom market changes, override your base currency. KuCoin and Huobi is now, supported. Trailing improvements. I know that they're doing DCA trailing buy and trailing profits, which is cool. So this is going to be a pretty game-changing release when this does get released, and you can be a part of the public beta. Just keep in mind that it is a public beta. We're still working through the kinks. We're just trying to help the feeder team. So with that said, if you're interested, jump in the Discord and ask questions, and we're there to help as best we can. And if we don't know the answers, we'll definitely reach out to the developers and stuff. So with that said, guys, I will catch you in the next video. Take it easy.